Let's start, shall we? Okay. Today, as almost all of the classes, we're going to watch some videos. This time, we're going to be watching some videos regarding history. So, the first two of them are about a teacher, a history teacher, that tells us how she makes or what she does um, to maintain her students' interest. So before watching those videos, I wanted to ask you first if you think that things were better before than now, or do you think that things in general are better now than before? Maybe the education, politics, economics, society. Hi, Fanny.
Precisamente, yo considero muy valioso el aporte del ingeniero Guzmán.
I think there are some things that now are better, but other things isn't better. For example, the planet. I think the planet now isn't better, but economy, I think it's better now.
Okay, yes, Jimena, thank you. And what about the others? What do you think? Were times better before? Are times better now? Is it important to know about history? Is history important?
Hi, teacher. I believe that it's really important to know the cultures around the world because we need to know where we stem from.
Yes, you're totally right. And what about you guys? Is history important? Do you think that maybe history has been changed? That we have been taught things that didn't happen? Or, well, because many conspiracies say that it has happened. Okay, I just wanted to begin with those questions. So, right now, we're going to watch a video. We have a professor, we have a teacher. She teaches at university. So, as I was telling you, she tells us how she gets her students' interest. So, let's watch the video and then we discuss. Let me open it. One. There it is. Okay, let's watch.
Professor Beard, what's the secret to getting people interested in the Romans, in ancient history?
Well, you have to go about it the right way, really. And I think that perhaps starting from rather arcane and difficult bits of literature isn't the right way. But one thing that you see in Britain is one thing that we know is that an awful lot of our culture and our geography and our place names and so on are actually formed by the Romans. You ask somebody, why do you think so many English place names end in Chester or Castor? Manchester, Doncaster. And they'll often say, I don't know. And then you say, that's because that bit Castor is from the Latin for military camp. And every place that ends Castor or Chester once had a Roman fort on it. And I've got a pretty 99% success record with getting people interested after that. Because suddenly it is a question not of these remote people who wrote some literature that you probably suspect would be boring. It's the people who formed the geography of our country and much of Europe. Why is London the capital of Britain? It's because the Romans made it so.
What do you think we can learn from Roman history?
In political terms, many of the issues and questions and dilemmas that we face now were faced by the Romans, and in many ways we're still thinking about and using their answers. And one classic example of that is a famous incident in Roman history in 63 BC, where there's a terrorist plot in the city of Rome to assassinate the political leaders, to torch the city, and to take over. Revolution. And that plot is discovered by one of the most famous Romans of all, Marcus Tullius Cicero, the great orator and wit of Roman culture. And he discovers the plot, he lays it before the Senate, he then decides to execute the leading conspirators without trial, summary execution. And a couple of years later, he's exiled. Now, in many ways, that's the kind of problem we're still facing with modern responses to terrorism. I mean, how far should homeland security be more important than civil rights? What about those people in Guantanamo Bay without trial? Where does the boundary come between the safety of the state and the liberty of the citizen? Now, the Romans were debating that in the 60s BC, and in many ways we're debating it along the same terms, and in part we've learned from how they debated those rights and wrongs.
Okay, so she talks about many facts about the Romans. She first mentions 3 or 2 places. She says that if a name ends with Chester or Castor, it means that it... Do you remember what that means? Or anyway, what could you see in the video? Jimena?
It means that one day in that land was a Roman.
Yes. Very good. She also mentions London. She says that London is the capital of Britain. And she says why. Do you remember why London is the capital of Britain?
Because the Romans made it.
Yes, Angie. In 63 BC, there was a plot. She mentioned a plot. And she qualifies it as terrorist. She says that there was a terrorist plot. And that plot was in Rome. What was that plot for? Why? What did they want to reach? To do? Or what does she say about that plot? she also she also makes a comparison, and she compares this situation to or with. Do you remember? No. Okay. Let me show you another video, an easier one.
Is there a period of history that you would like to go back to?
I'd really like to go back to Tudor England, 16th century England.
Why that period?
Well, I'm doing a PhD in the music of that period, and I just think it's such a fascinating time because there was so much change happening in the way people lived their lives, their religion, the way the politics of the country was working. It must have been a really exciting time to live.
Is there a person from history that you admire or find especially fascinating?
There was a lady called Bess of Hardwick who owned a lot of property in Derbyshire. She was a real social climber. She lived through Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary I and Elizabeth I, and into a bit of James I as well. So she had a really long life, really exciting life, and she started from absolutely nothing and worked her way right to the top. I think she must have been a really amazing lady to know.
Is there a period of history that you would like to go back to?
I think I would have loved to be around, like it was a really exciting time. I think there was a lot of frightening things happening in Vietnam, but people were excited and excited about the potential, I think, of something new and really exploring their freedom, I guess.
Is there a person from history that you admire or find especially fascinating?
I think I most admire Nelson Mandela. I'm South African, so he's the first person that comes to mind. I think he was an incredible person and an amazing leader. So yeah, I would have loved to have met him.
Is there a period of history that you'd like to go back to?
Ooh, that's a weird one. I don't know. History was pretty brutal. Life was really quite hard. I mean, there are some aspects of it that I'd like, where time was slower, life was defined by the seasons and daylight, and you didn't have the same sort of pressures as you do now. So I'd like aspects of it, but I'm not sure I'd really like to go back to the actual way of life.
Is there a person from history that you admire or find especially fascinating?
Probably Queen Elizabeth I, because she managed to be the queen in a society where women weren't expected to have or hold or command any power and respect, and that they were meant to do the bidding of men and their families. And she actually stood up and was a person to be counted.
Is there a period of history that you would like to go back to?
Yes, there's a period I'd like to go back to, absolutely. I love ancient Greece. I love ancient Athens, and I think it would be so amazing to spend time there and see what it was like being in the Agora with, Plato and Aristotle and talking, and that entire world would be very, very interesting to me.
Is there a person from history that you admire or find especially fascinating?
A person from history that I find that I admire. There are a lot of people. I study a lot of ancient history, so I would love to meet Julius Caesar or someone like that who really transformed the entire world with his actions. And he has a very unique personality. He was a very cocky person, and it'd be fun to just see what he was like in person and see how he was able to kind of take over the entire Roman Empire by himself.
Is there a period of history that you would like to go back to?
Oh, there's so many. I kind of have this romantic idea of the 1920s, maybe, when there was a motor car had been invented, but not many people were driving. So I like the idea of wandering and walking the quieter roads of England.
Is there a person from history that you admire or find especially fascinating?
It would probably be one of the ordinary men. So not a big person, a big name, but one of the hundreds of men who were like on, say, Nelson's ship, the Victory, who were maybe firing cannons or pulling up the sails. So one of those characters, just an ordinary seaman, sailor.
Okay, so these people are answering some questions regarding history. What questions do they answer?
They were asked about what time in the history they would like to come back, and also which who important people they admire.
Yes, Maria Alejandra, thank you. So Maria Alejandra gave us 2 questions. I think there is one missing. Okay, anyway, what did they say? What kind of people did they say they admire?
Some people mention, for example, Nelson Mandela, Elizabeth Queen.
Yes.
The last man mentioned ordinary person. Sorry, ordinary people. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, Maria. Thank you.
Other person, Julio Cesar.
Yes.
I don't remember anymore.
Yes. Thank you, Fanny. So if I asked you, is there a specific time in the past you would like to go back to? Guys, what would you say? Or is it better to live now, here, at this time?
I would like the year 50 years.
When you were
because I really like the clothes, the women use in that epoca. How is it? Epoca, sorry.
At that time.
At that time, the teacher.
Okay, thank you. What about the others? Is there a specific time in history you would like to go back to?
I would like to come back maybe to the 18th, but in New York, to see the retro culture in that time. People from different, I don't know, maybe hippies or things like that.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay. As for me, I would have liked to live in Jesus' time, in Jesus Christ's time.
Oh
Why?
no.
Why? Because I read in the Bible that he performed many miracles. I think he was a wonderful man. When he performed this miracle, I think that is the most important thing he did. Um, Also, when he multiplied the fish and the bread, when he was in the countryside with many people, and he raised people from the dead, and the many miracles he performed, I would have liked to live in that time for that reason.
Oh yes. Very good. Awesome. There is somebody from the people we watched who doesn't mention a specific time that he or she would like to go back to. Do you remember that person who doesn't mention a specific time in the past?
1920 year, 1920, 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
Yes.
that. I remember that date.
Okay.
And the 16th century.
Okay. And there is somebody. Well, you know that they answered the same questions. So the first question is there a specific time in the past you would like to go back to? And somebody doesn't specify, doesn't say anything about it. That person doesn't mention that time, the time he or she would like to go back to. So who is that person? The first one, the second one? Because they all mention where they would like to go. But there is only one who doesn't.
I remember it was a woman. It was a woman talking about that she doesn't care about to go back in the ancient time. He's not interested in it. So, but I don't remember her name.
Yes, but yes, it is that one. Maybe it is Heather. Heather, sorry. The one who
I
said
think it was the woman who wasn't sure about if she wanted or not go back in time
yes.
because she said that there were some stuff that were good back then, but right now we have a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And is that the woman who says that is from South Africa that admires Nelson Mandela?
No, she isn't. I think she's the fourth.
Okay.
Richard
She's
mentioned.
not. She isn't mentioned Nelson Mandela.
Okay. Fanny, thank you, Jimena. Fanny?
Richard mentioned Nelson. Sorry, no teacher. I am wrong, teacher. Sorry.
Don't worry. Somebody of them would like to listen to some philosophers talking.
He's the man. I think it's the fifth. He'd like to talk with Platon. Well, all the
Plato, Aristotle. Yes, yes, it is. It is Adam. Yes, you're right. And there is another person who is studying the period that he or she would like to go back to. She says that she's studying now a PhD.
Daisy mentioned that, teacher.
Sorry?
Daisy mentioned that, teacher.
Oh, yes. It is number one. Very good. It is Daisy. Pretty good. Okay. We're going to... Well, Fanny already mentioned three people they said they admired. Queen Elizabeth I, Nelson Mandela, Julius Caesar. And there is another person that mentions the person he or she admires. But yes. Okay. So I wanted to ask you too, if there is a person that you admire. Maybe that person is already dead. Perhaps Alfredo would say that he admires Jesus because of what he did. Is there anybody else that you admire because of what he or she did in the past? Maybe something that changed history.
I admire to Obama.
Obama?
Obama.
The president?
The president of United States.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my opinion, he changed a lot of the political situation in the United States, teacher. In many ways.
Okay. Yes, he did. And what about the others? Nobody? Okay, so let's continue. I am going to...
20s, maybe, when there was...
I'm going to show you the last, well, some parts of the video where they use colloquial expressions. So, I don't know, let's look first at the video. Or, well, let's maybe get familiar with the sentences. And then we look at the expressions. Yes. Yes, Angie has a very good memory. Let me show you. Okay, so here we have some sentences. Number one says, she was a real something. You would have loved to in California. She actually stood up and was a person to... He was a person, so not a big person, but one of the hundreds of men. So we're going to watch a very short part of the video, and let's see if we get the expressions they use. It is here. 1, 2, 3. Wait, let me open it. because every time I select a video to present it to you, I have to subtitle it. So this one, I think that is not subtitled this time. Wait a minute. History is a university career. Have you ever thought about studying history, or have you had any relative that studies history? Because many people don't study history because of the payment, because they think it is not interesting, that it's not worth studying history.
I wouldn't study history. I think it's a little bored.
Yes? You wouldn't study history, Jimena, because
I think it's a little bored. I don't like it.
okay. Do you guys agree with Jimena? Is history boring?
I like the history teacher because when I know about the history, I can give any opinion about, or maybe how is it related the modern actually time with
The current time.
Yes.
Time.
Thank you. I can to do contracts maybe, or contracts, or comparison between each the one or the other time teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because sometimes maybe we're not conscious of what our country, or what we've lived, or what our parents have lived. So we tend to forget what the politicians have done. So we're not aware enough to criticize, to yes, to be good citizens, because we don't know our origins. So I think that history is really, really important. Okay, now I have the video. It is subtitled. So let me show it to you.
California.
These ones are the colloquial expressions. So we're going to watch them, and then we listen to it without watching, and we feel the sentences we have. And here it is. I'm going to play it twice.
She was a real social climber.
I would have loved to be around in California.
She actually stood up and was a person to be counted.
He was a very cocky person.
So not a big person, a big name, but one of the hundreds of men.
She was a real social climber.
I would have loved to be around in California.
She actually stood up and was a person to be counted.
He was a very cocky person.
So not a big person, a big name, but one of the hundreds of men.
Okay, let me show you again the sentences. And let's listen again.
She was a real social climber.
So, let me repeat it.
She was a real social climber.
So, number one says she qualified as a person, and she says
As a real social climber.
yes, that she was a real social climber. Can you guess what it means to be a real social climber?
That she is not according with the actual rules that she claims for her right.
Yes, good. A real social climber. Very good. Let's go to number 2. I would have loved to.
Around in California. Around.
Sorry?
Around in California. Around.
Yes. Let me repeat it.
I would have loved to be around in California.
Very good. I would have loved to be around in California. So, what does this mean? I would have loved to be around in California.
Maybe next to
Next to it?
maybe it's a synonym.
Yes. What else do you think? Okay, so it means to be very close to. Yes, could be next to, very close to, near to. Number 3 says she actually stood up and was a person to. Let's listen.
Okay, person.
And not yet.
Okay.
Counted?
Counted? Do you say counted?
Was a person counted? I'm not really sure.
Yes, yes. But
Okay.
there is one more. Very good. So let me repeat it.
She actually stood up and was a person to be counted.
Yeah.
She actually stood up and was a person to be counted.
She actually stood up and was a person counted. To be counted.
Sorry, teacher, what's the meaning of stood up?
Stood up is the past of stand up. Stand up. Yes, it is opposite to sit down, you know. But stand up can also mean to stand out. That means to be very different, to be different from the other people. So we can say she stood up or she stood out. To stand out means that you do things that other people don't do. You stand out. You stand up. So she was a person to be counted because of that, because she stood up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 4 says,
He was a very cocky person. A cocky person.
A cocky person.
yes, he was a cocky person.
What means cocky word, teacher?
I think arrogant.
Yes, there is an arrogant person, a person who is not, well, who see a problem in everything, who doesn't like anything. Yes, arrogant. Yes, arrogant could be a synonym. Yes, thank you, Alfredo. So that is a cocky person. And number 4. So not a big person. Let's listen.
Big name.
Okay, let's listen.
So not a big person, a big name, but one of them hundreds of men.
A big name?
Yes, good, very good. Not a big person, a big name, but one of the hundreds of men. What does he mean by that? So not a big person, a big name, but one of the hundreds of men.
I think a big name is an important person and very recognized person. But he doesn't want that person. He only wants a common person.
Yes. So he talks about someone that was not a very important person, that was not a big name, but it was outstanding for him. He was outstanding. Okay, guys.
He was talking about a seaman or sailor, but I don't remember his name.
I think I have it here. No, he doesn't mention the name. He only says a sailor from one of Nelson's ship, Best of Hardwick. It is here. He doesn't mention his name. Okay. We still miss another activity. Wait a minute, because I missed the first part. Well, because I was asking you questions about the video we were watching at first. And I would like to go back to one little part of that video. This one doesn't have subtitles, but I think that we can understand very well. Anyway, it's a very short. It's very short. Yeah, and again, let me open it. Because I have to open it using my browser. Because of the sound, because of the quality of the sound. It is number 3. Okay, there I have it. Again, we have the teacher, the professor. When we are referring to teachers who teach at university, we usually say professor instead of saying teacher. Okay, so let's listen to her. And before listening, she thinks that accuracy is really important in historical films. So what we need to know, well, what I want you to tell me or to tell us is how important she thinks accuracy is in historical films. Only that question. Accuracy, you know what that means, accuracy? Let me write it. Let me mute myself and then we watch.
How important do you think it is that historical films should be accurate? As a historian, how important do you think it is that historical films should be accurate?
I'm not sure quite how keen I am on accuracy above everything else. And the most important thing, if I was going to make a historical movie, I'd really want to get people interested. And I think that film and television program makers can be a bit sort of nerdish about accuracy. I remember a friend of mine once told me that he'd acted as an advisor for some Roman film. And the crew were always ringing up when they were on location, saying things like, "Now, what kind of dog should we have? Should it, if we're going to have a dog in the film, should it be an Alsatian or a Dachshund or whatever?" And to start with, he said he'd go to the library and he'd kind of look up and he'd find a breed, and eventually, after question after question, he'd think, "Look, these guys are getting the whole of Roman history in the big picture utterly wrong, and yet there they are worrying about the damn dogs."
Can you think of any historical films that you've really enjoyed?
I absolutely loved Gladiator. Never mind its horribly schmaltzy plot. I thought in all kinds of ways it was just a wonderful, brilliant, and I don't know if it was accurate, but a justifiable recreation of ancient Rome. The beginning scenes of Gladiator, which show, Roman combat, just in a sense punctured the kind of slightly sanitized version of legionaries standing with all their shields facing the enemy, all looking ever so kind of neat and tidy. I mean, it was messy and it was bloody and it was horrible, and it was such a different kind of image of Roman combat that I remember we set it in Cambridge as an exam question. How would students judge that kind of representation of Roman warfare?
It's very interesting that there seem to be more and more historical films recently, and many have won Oscars. Is that because history has all the best stories?
Yes, there's no such good story as a true story, and that's what history's got going for it. Actually, non-fiction, in a kind of way, is always a better yarn than fiction is. And I think it's, I feel very pleased because, and I think, for one thing, it gets some of the best stories from history into the popular attention, popular consciousness. But I think also, it shows that you don't always have to be deadly serious about history. History, like classics, is often treated as something which is good for you, but isn't actually going to be much fun. You'll be improved by knowing about it, but it probably will be a bit tedious in the process. And I think that, showing that history can be larky, it can be funny, it can be surprising, it can be something that you can sit down and have a good 2.5 hours at the cinema enjoying, is really all to the good.
Okay, guys, so don't you think that accuracy is important in historical films?
No, she doesn't think accuracy is important in films.
Mm-hmm. So what is important for her? Fanny, you were going to say something?
I want to say that she said she doesn't sure about the accuracy, teacher.
She mentions a movie that she really enjoys watching. Did you get that one? What is the movie she says that she enjoys a lot watching?
Gladiator.
Yes, Gladiator. And does she think, guys, does she think that history is boring?
No, definitely she said it's very interesting.
That it can be interesting and that it can also be funny. In
Yes.
fact, she loves history. Okay, guys, so history definitely is really important in our lives.
I think so.
Yes, it is.
Teacher.
So I cheer you up to study a little bit about our history, because yes, it is pretty important. It is essential. Okay, guys, so those were all the activities that I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed them, and if not, you tell me. You can make any suggestions if you want to. Well, and do you have any questions, Guy? Any suggestion? Any opinion?
Teacher,
tell me.
Please. Maybe if you want and our partners want to, maybe we could analyze a short video about the
About the what? Sorry, Fanny?
about the news, teacher. Real news. A short video about the real news every day. A short video about the, I don't know, maybe about the COVID, about the situation in any part of the world, teacher.
Okay, okay, thank you. I will.
Okay, thanks, teacher.
Okay, Fanny, thank you so much. Any other opinion? Any other question?